In the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic, you're under arrest, Chancellor.
It's no secret their involvement in politics blinded the Jedi, but have you ever wondered how politically powerful they were? Strap yourselves in as we take a trip back to the summer of 1997, August the 29th, where George Lucas is posed the question of what is the purpose of the Jedi?
No one can kill a Jedi.
And by answering the question, George also reveals the extent of how far the Jedi had fallen from their way.
We're keepers of the peace.
Today we're diving into the Star Wars archives, covering episodes 1 to 3, the making of the prequel trilogy. And whether the prequels are your thing or not, there's no denying they play an integral part of not just telling Anakin's story, but building out the Star Wars universe as well. And let's face it, up until the prequels, all we knew about the Jedi of old really was that they were
the guardians of peace and justice in the old Republic.
Paul Duncan, the writer of the Star Wars archives, posed the question to George, what is the purpose of the Jedi? Are they a police force? To which George Lucas responds, no, they're not like the cops who catch murderers, they're warrior monks who keep peace in the universe without resorting to violence. The Trade Federation is in dispute with Naboo, so the Jedi are ambassadors who talk to both sides and convince them to resolve their differences and not go to war. Okay, so far George's description of the Jedi largely tracks with what we learned about the Jedi during the original trilogy. So just how did a group of warrior monks looking to keep peace in the universe without resorting to violence end up picking a side and fighting in the war? George goes on to say, if they do have to use violence, they will, but they are diplomats at the highest level. They've got the power to send the whole force of the Republic, which is 100,000 systems. So if you don't behave, they can bring you up in front of the Senate. They'll cut you off at the knees politically. So whilst the Jedi aren't a police force as such, George describes them as diplomats at the highest level, which fits better with the version of the Jedi Order we see in the prequels. And due to the Jedi Order's commitment to the Republic, they also find themselves resorting to violence if needed, with the backing of 100,000 systems, and the power to quash any political career immediately if it's deemed necessary. So now we've established the extent of the Jedi's political power, somewhat overruling that of the politicians, it becomes obvious Palpatine's only real chance of eradicating a Jedi was to hold the position of Emperor, where everything effectively runs through him, which in turn enables him to oust the Jedi from their position within the Republic without having the move challenged. So of course the Jedi didn't know the entirety of the Clone Wars was effectively one big trap, one that perhaps if they weren't involved in would have led to their survival. So did the Jedi feel the need to pick a side due to their standing in the Republic? Perhaps they too, like the Sith, were afraid of losing their power, or were they fulfilling a traditional role of religious orders that fight for their state? George concludes by saying, they're like peace officers. As the situation develops in the Clone Wars, they're recruited into the army and they become generals. They're not generals, they don't kill people, they don't fight, they're supposed to be ambassadors. There are a lot of Jedi that think that the Jedi actually sold out, that they should have never have been in the army, but, and Paul Duncan asks, do you think that? And George Lucas replies, it's a tough call, it's one of those conundrums, of which there are a bunch of in my movies, you have to think it through. Are they going to stick by their moral rules and all be killed, which makes it irrelevant? Or do they help save the Republic? They have good intentions, they have been manipulated, which was their downfall. Now, of course, if the Jedi's intentions were to simply defend their Republic rather than fight for power, then they went down nobly. However, if they were motivated by their need to cling to power and their position in the galaxy, then perhaps Palpatine and Vader weren't to blame for their downfall after all. Perhaps it's because they lost sight of their way, the way of the Jedi, which blinded them to the growing Imperial shadow spreading across the galaxy. So this brings us back around to the first clip I showed you in this video, where Mace Windu attempts to arrest, at this point, Chancellor Palpatine during Revenge of the Sith.
In the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic, you're under arrest, Chancellor.
Did Mace Windu have legal grounds to carry out such an act against the Chancellor of the Republic? Yes, he absolutely did. And furthermore, although it's a slightly more grey area in the Star Wars universe, Mace would have likely gotten away with executing Palpatine himself without needing him to stand trial, given how he had just killed every other Jedi that entered the room with Mace Windu that day. It would have been seen as an act of self-defense rather than the Jedi looking to take the law into their own hands. In the Republic's eyes, Palpatine would have been guilty of high treason, conspiracy, murder, and attempted murder, just to name a few. He was indeed too dangerous to be kept alive. I hope you find this video useful, but I need to know your thoughts on this one. Are the Sith really to blame for the Jedi's demise, or was it the Jedi themselves? Remember to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'll catch you in the next one. May the Force be with you.